If you know me, you'll know that I like setting myself ambitious reading lists. It's just who I am, and it's what I do, and despite not having a particularly productive reading month in April, I'm setting myself an equally ambitious TBR for May, because I think I can do it. Now, towards the end of April, I found I was getting my mojo back, so I'm going to try and hit the ground running, and hopefully I can get myself back to my usual reading pace. Now, thankfully, the slow month I had in April didn't put me back in terms of progress towards my Goodreads reading goal. Thankfully, as of recording, I'm still a couple of books ahead of where I need to be to read 60 books by the end of the year. So we're not doing too badly, and I'm going to take that as a win. Now, this TBR contains a mixture of books from different sources. Firstly, we have a couple of carryovers from the end of April, which I talked about in my monthly wrap-up video a couple of days ago. I will link that there if you want to go and take a look and have a laugh at how abysmal my reading month in April was. After those two carryovers, I have a couple of blog talk commitments I need to factor into my reading. The first of those posts is due around mid-month, and the second is for a tour taking place right at the beginning of June. So I don't want to leave it too last minute. They are famous last words. Every time I say that, I always leave it to last minute. So, hold me accountable, guys. I'm not allowed to leave it to last minute, okay? Not allowed. After those, I have my read-along, which I have a terrible track record with keeping up with myself, so apologies for that, guys. But this month, I have to be a little bit more on the ball with this book. Enough teasing, let's get into my TBR in earnest. Starting with my carryovers from April, I have two books on my immediate radar that I'm going to be finishing hopefully in the next couple of days. Those are When We Get Sick, which is my audiobook listen, and Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. Now, this second book, Crown of Midnight, is a digital learn from my library, but it is my read-along book. I'm running a read-along on both Fable and Storygraph, albeit not very well right now because I always set myself a deadline and I'm always reading past it, but hey ho, these things happen. So Crown of Midnight is my immediate priority, but I have been taking advantage of listening to When We Get Sick in the moments when I can't traditionally listen to a book. Bless you, sweetie. For example, I listen in the car when I'm commuting or, anything like that. So I have been making the most of those opportunities. And because I'm reading about a book where I want to learn something out of the content, then it's worth me doing. So I have really enjoyed this. So I'm hoping they're going to be quick wins at the beginning of this month. Now let's get into my reading commitments that are in both May and early June. The first of my blog talk commitments is for a book called The Eagle Will Rise by M.J. Porter. Now you may recall I have been reading books by M.J. Porter in her Eagle of Mercia Chronicles series. The most recent of these I featured was Storm of Mercia, which I also talked about in my April wrap-up and my April TBR, obviously. Now The Eagle Will Rise is actually a separate series, but it does, I believe, feature the same main character, Isol, so obviously intrigued by this one, and it's going to be a different angle on a historical fiction I enjoy. So this review is due, I believe, on the 14th of May, so I need to think about getting to this one pretty soon. But let's recap the synopsis for this one. The king is dead. For Mercia to survive, another must take his place. Ceolwulf, Mercia's last king, is dead. His legacy and right to rule Western Mercia have been claimed by Alfred of Wessex. But all know Alfred was never to have Mercia. Neither were the Viking raiders, who now command the easternmost parts of Mercia and the former kingdom of the East Angles. Isol, the bastion of Mercia's wars against Wessex and the Viking raiders, lies dying, but he refused to abandon his beloved kingdom to her long-standing enemies. Rudolph, the once young ally of King Coewolf II, is summoned by Isel to attend upon him. Grudgingly, he arrives at Budworth, the task laid before him, audacious to say the least: rescue Coewolf's acknowledged heir Ethelred from Wessex, where he is held prisoner by King Alfred. To do so, Rudolph must prevail upon the dispersed, oath-sworn warrior band of King Coewolf, and all of them, aside from him, have ignored Isel's increasingly furious demands to attend upon him. If they won't obey Isel, why should they listen to Rudolph? The fate of Mercia's survival rests in the hands of a man who should have long been in his grave, and Rudolph, a boy who's become a man in the most trying of circumstances. They must forge Ethelred into the emblem of Mercian survival, or die trying. But first they must rescue Ethelred, and someone who's always pretended to be Mercia's ally is anything but. So this book is just over 300 pages, so it's not a huge read. It's pretty consistent with MJ Porter's writing, and I can get through these books pretty quickly. So again, I'm pretty hopeful that this should be a perfectly easy read. I'm determined not to leave it last minute, so I'll probably pick this up after I've finished Crown of Midnight. The next obligation I have is actually for an audiobook tour, which is something I've not done for a little while, but I do enjoy, and obviously I listen to audiobooks all the time anyway, so it's a different way of kind of reviewing a book, but I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts for this tour anyway. This is due actually at the beginning of June, so thankfully it's not kind of an immediate priority. But again, it's because I'm slower listening to audiobooks and because it's a deadline, I'm going to try not to leave this too last minute. That's why it's at the beginning of this May TBR video. Let's take a look at Witch Hunt by Beauties and find out more about it. A young woman is found brutally murdered and mutilated at the foot of Pendle Hill, and the local police are in no doubt who the killer is. Newly released from a psychiatric unit, Will Perkins has delusions that the victim is a witch. When DCI Liam Doyle and his team are brought in to investigate, the suspect is already in custody and the case apparently wrapped up, except for one key detail: evidence. Is it really possible the origins to this murder lie in Pendle's infamous past? Recently returned to work, DS Anna Morgan is battling her own demons. The physical wounds from her last case have healed, but the psychological trauma still haunts her. When another body turns up, the investigation is blown wide open, and Doyle has to face up to the horrifying possibility that he could have prevented this killing. Can Doyle overcome his own doubts and track down the killer before they strike again? Will Morgan be able to conquer her fear before it destroys her? Set in and around Lancashire's legendary Pendle Hill, Witch Hunt is a gripping British crime thriller with a dark humour and nail-biting climax. So what appealed to me about this book, and is the reason I signed up to this audio tour, is its kind of witch hunt kind of setting, and in particular Pendle Hill. It's obviously infamous for its witch stories, and I really wanted to read something based on that. I have read other books this year that are based around kind of witchcraft and historical kind of witch figures in history. So I'm hoping this crime take on this kind of storyline is a little bit different, but leans into a kind of genre and character set I've really enjoyed reading from this year. Watch this space and find out more. The last of my concrete obligations for my May TBR is to carry on my Throne of Glass read-along. Yes, after Crown of Midnight, I'm picking up Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. Now, with the earlier books in this series, I have not really kept up to date with my timescales for these books, and I've kind of been able to wing it because they're not too long. Unfortunately, though, that is going to very quickly become a problem because the books get longer. Now, this third installment of the series is nearly 600 pages long, so I definitely need to plan in fitting this in a bit more. I can't just wing this like I've been doing with the other two. So it's going to be a priority for the month, But what I'll also maybe be doing is set myself milestones to actually get myself reading it throughout the month and actually doing something productive for the read along. Because, that's kind of what I'm meant to be doing. I'm going to get better, guys, I promise. So I will get this set up on Fable and Storygraph, so you can read along with me and actually read along with me. Obviously what I'm meant to be doing. But I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, I can't talk too much about where we leave off in book 2 because I'm still reading book 2. But I'm really enjoying the series. Best thing I can say right now. And I'm looking forward to carrying on and getting better. Now we get on to the fun part of this TBR, because now I've talked about all the boring, or not so boring, but mundane stuff. I now get to pull out my new TBR jar. It's very full. It's very, very full. Now you may also notice there are a couple of different shades of paper in there, and that is because I have updated this jar. When I used it last month, it was quite apparent that there were some old things in here. I was actually worried I was going to pull out something I've already read, which by chance I didn't. But having sorted it out, I did actually have quite a lot in here where I had read the book or I'd taken it off my TBR for whatever reason. So I probably took a good third out, but as you can see, I ended up putting about another 60 books in. So we're fresh up to date with everything that's on my Goodreads reading list as of right now. So that's about 230 books. Now, I have everything in here from history, crime, fantasy, non-fiction, self-help, personal development, you name it, it's probably in here. Even like health stuff, like the obesity code, and obviously you can tell I'm kind of leaning into that kind of reading, although that's been on my list for a while. So there's variety in here, and I don't know what's going to come out. So this is kind of the fun part of the TBR where I can't really plan for it. So as you can see, there are 2 different shades of paper in here. So yeah, the white aligned paper is the old stuff, and the cream dot paper is the kind of newer editions. So what I think I'm going to try and do is aim for 2 of each of these. One, so I obviously get to the kind of older stuff, but some of the newer stuff to keep it a bit fresh as well. So, time to dive in, I guess. No more procrastinating. Let's see what I pull out. Something there. I actually have 2 there. I'll go for that one. I'll go for a new one. So this is a cream dot paper, so this is one I've added in today. Ooh, this is called Don't Fix Women. That's a truncated version of the title. I will pop the cover up for this book here. I don't think I own this one, so I'll be looking to either borrow this from my library if I can, or get myself a digital copy if I don't. So to give you the proper details of this book, the title in full is Don't Fix Women, The Practical Path to Gender Equality at Work. This book is only 260 odd pages, so this is quite approachable for me to pick up, so I think this is a pretty good start to this TBR. Let's take a look at the synopsis. Wondering why your female-led diversity initiatives are not working? Don't Fix Women reveals how achieving gender balance at work isn't about fixing the women. It's about changing the system. Packed with simple, practical recommendations, this book provides a route map to improve gender equality in your organisation, developing a truly diverse, modern leadership culture and reap the rewards that brings. Learn from over 100 senior business leaders and CEOs about what they are doing to accelerate progress towards gender equality. Be ahead of the Access research data, new tools and frameworks. I'm really excited for this one. As I'm sure you can probably gather, I'm obviously passionate about being treated fairly, because why wouldn't I be? Now, thankfully, I would say my workplace is pretty good, and that we do have women in sort of positions of not full leadership, but certainly in kind of managerial roles. And my team and my managers especially are looking to kind of foster me to go down that route eventually. So I'd say we're pretty good, but obviously if there's some practical advice in here that then I can feed back to my workplace, then great, I'll do it. So that's one book picked out of the jar already. Let's dive in and find the second. Now I did give these a pretty good mix. Like basically, obviously I had to unfold all these to read all the old ones, and I did my best to kind of fold them all back up and make it all nice and compact. Ooh, that's a new one as well. Okay. But yeah, there's a lot in here, but when I put everything back, basically I put in a bit of one, a bit of the other, but I've still managed to pull out a new one. Now this one is a little bit scary because it's a chunky book, and it's the sequel to The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which is fine because I wanted to read it anyway. But yeah, The Great Hunt is not a small book. It's a big epic fantasy kind of series that my friend Rachel's actually read and really enjoyed, I think, in full. I'm lagging behind, but I am keen to catch up and get back into this one. So let me pull up the details on The Great Hunt. The Forsaken are loose, the horn of the lair has been found, and the dead are rising from their dreamless sleep. The prophecies are being fulfilled, but Randall Thor, the shepherd of and Aes Sedai have proclaimed as the dragon reborn, desperately seek to escape his destiny. Rand cannot run forever. With every passing day, the Dark One grows in strength and strives to shatter his ancient prison, to break the wheel and bring an end to time and sunder the weave of the pattern. And the pattern demands the dragon. Now that's pretty vague, but I'm quite happy with that. I don't want too much to be spoiled. So, yeah, it's been a while since I picked up the first book of the series. I want to say at least a year ago. Maybe 2. Let's have a look. Yes, so I read The Eye of the World in December 2024, so just over a year ago. Not too bad. And I think I'm pretty kind of hot on what happened in the first book, so I should be able to jump into this one pretty easy. It's 700 pages, so it's not an insignificant read. But hey ho, I'm a big epic fantasy reader, so a chunky book was bound to come out eventually. So I actually already own this book as well. It's on my bookshelf upstairs, so that's pretty handy. I don't have to worry about sourcing that one, so I'll be able to jump into that one when I can. Right, I said I wanted 2 of each, and I pulled out 2 new ones, so I need to find some of the older books on this list. It's obviously nice to get some variety. Is there a bit of a texture difference? I think there is. That's an old one. Obviously I want to carry on reading some of the older books on this list, rather than just going for all the newer stuff. This one is Sleeping Beauties, which is written by Stephen King and his son, I believe. Let me pull up the details on that one. Yes, so this is written by both Stephen King and Owen King, I was right. It's also a pretty chunky book, so this is going to be a fun month. And also, I'm pretty sure I have this upstairs as well. So I've got one current audiobook, I've got one audiobook planned. The rest is physical or digital, so really I could do with my next book coming out being one I don't have, and then I could listen to it. I think that's the smartest option, but obviously the jar gives what the jar wants. So never mind. Anyway, I'm skipping ahead of myself. Let's get into the synopsis for Sleeping Beauties. In a future so real and near it might be now, something happens when women go to sleep. They become shrouded in a cocoon-like gauze. If they are awakened and the gauze wrapping their bodies is disturbed or violated, the women become feral and spectacularly violent. And while they sleep, they go to another place. The men of our world are abandoned, left to their increasingly primal devices. One woman, however, the mysterious Evie, is immune to the blessing or curse of the sleeping disease. Is Evie a medical anomaly to be studied, or is she a demon who must be slain? So this is actually a nice change from some of the books I've got on this reading list, because it's kind of fantasy, kind of a bit horror, thriller. So it sits in almost a bit of a genre of its own, really. It's a bit different. And it's a book I've had on my reading list for a little while. When did I add it? When did I add this book to my reading list? Yes, so I added this book to my reading list in 2018. So it's taken 6 years, but we're getting there. Right, last one. Please be kind. Preferably something not too long. I wouldn't say short, but not too long. It's and something I can do audio on. Hopefully something I don't already have, because I don't like buying multiple copies of books. I suppose the other option is I could try and borrow audio from my library, but they don't always have the best choice. So, kind of crossing my fingers here. They're all new. I don't want new. I want old. That's a lined paper. What do we have here? We have... Ooh, the weird. Okay. I have a feeling this might be quite short. Well, I want to say it's like horror short stories or something off the top of my head. Let's have a look. Okay, it is a book of short stories, but there's a lot of them. This book is over 1,000 pages, so I'm actually going to put that back. I don't have time for that. So that is back in the jar. Yeah, I can't do 1,000 pages on top of The Great Hunt, and Sleeping Beauties, and Heir of Fire. Yeah, no. Sorry, I don't normally do that unless I really have to, but I think I really have to. So let's try again. Hopefully something under 5. I also did have a copy of that book, and I had it in ebook, so you know, there was no avoiding that. Is this any better? Oop, that's an old one, but not changed. That is The Wastelands by Stephen King, which I have already read. I did drop a couple when I was trying to sort these out, so that was always possible that was going to happen. Right, third time lucky. Let's go again. Something old, new, small piece of paper. Let's just hope it's not the same one again. Oh, it is as well. No. The universe really wants me to read the weird, and I really do not want to. Last time. No, I dropped one. I did. So what? It's old. Let's go for that. Oh, yes, I'm excited about this one. I do physically own it, which is not necessarily the most ideal. It is Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon. Now, this is a non-fiction, and it's about the filming of A Game of Thrones. Now, this also isn't like a mega short book, but it's also not 1,150 pages, so I'll take it. I don't have loads of short books on my reading list, so it was pretty odds on. We're at 450. I can do 450. And obviously it's about a topic I really enjoy as well, so I'm hoping this will just fly. So, the synopsis of Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon. The official, definitive oral history of the blockbuster show from Entertainment Weekly's James Hibberd, endorsed by George R. R. Martin himself, reveals the one Game of Thrones tale that is yet to be told. The 13-year behind-the-scenes struggle to make the show. Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon shares the incredible, thrilling, uncensored story of the Game of Thrones. From the creators' first meetings with George R. R. Martin and HBO through to the series finale, including all the on-camera battles, off-camera efforts, and the many controversies in between. The book also features more than 50 candid new interviews, rare and stunning photos, and unprecedented access to the producers, cast, and crew who took an impossible idea and made it into the biggest show in the world. Now, I'm actually really happy about that one, because I've featured this a few times on my blog and wanted to, pick it up and share my thoughts on this one. So I'm glad it's come out, and I'm really hoping that a book like that on this reading list will really help with the slump I had in April, and definitely kicked me out of it. Game of Thrones is one of my favourite books of all time. I love the TV series, and so getting to the behind the scenes story is really going to be kind of the icing on the cake for me. So I think that is plenty of reading to be getting on with. I hope you've enjoyed today's May TBR video. Have you read any of the books I feature on this list? Are you going to join me for my read along with Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass series? This month we're picking up Heir of Fire, or catching up with Crown of Midnight if you're me. But yes, book 3 is the intended target for this month. So I hope you can join me for that. Let me know if you've picked up any of these or have any thoughts on these books. And I will obviously be catching you up on where I get to with my reading in following videos. Until then, bye for now.